The Climate Action Data Trust was formed by IETA, the World Bank, and the Singapore government in December 2022. Its aim to create a decentralised record of all major carbon credit registry data to strengthen trust and confidence in carbon markets through enhanced transparency. Our reporter, Sally Patterson, spoke to CAD Trust Executive Director, Dinesh Babu.
I'm joined here by Dinesh Babu, the Executive Director of the Climate Action Data Trust. Dinesh, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So to start off, why do carbon markets need Climate Action Data Trust? What's the challenge that you're trying to solve?
The current challenges faced by the carbon markets are more related to the transparency and the environmental integrity, especially to avoid double counting of the projects. Towards this, the Climate Action Data Trust has been set up to address these issues. The major challenges are basically the fragmentation that is prevalent in the standards, and there's a clear absence of linkages between the voluntary and the national registries and its operations. And there is always also a limited visibility of the projects in terms of its activity life cycle. And definitely there is a lack of transparency in the pricing signals which are happening across the market. And finally, and the most important part is in terms of there is no clarity in terms of how the carbon credits are linked to the nationally determined contribution, the NDCs in short. So the Climate Action Data Trust therefore would like to address these challenges, and it has established a metadata layer. Therefore, it connects all the registries, both voluntary and the national registries, to address all these challenges so that there is increased confidence in the carbon market.
What's the short and long-term aim of CAD Trust?
Yeah, the short aim, of course, is to link all the independent or the voluntary standards registries, and they have done a great job in the last decade or more. The long aim, of course, is to bring the national registries on board, largely because of the role they are going to play very critically in Article 6. And therefore, to onboard the national registries would be our long aim, because we have so many countries to onboard on the CAD Trust data layer, metadata layer. So then the kind of unified objective is to see how both voluntary and the national registries are linked, and then the access to the data is given to the stakeholders for carrying out the value-added services that they could provide to the market.
Now, given the absence of centralised registries, how does CAD Trust ensure the integration of multiple registry systems?
Yeah, so the Climate Action Data, as I mentioned to you earlier, is a metadata layer, and that works on blockchain technology. So the usual benefits tagged to the blockchain technology applies here as well. It's an open source. It is basically transparent, and it's kind of accessible, and it provides a equitable access, and it's a peer-to-peer governance, and it's kind of available for anybody to access the data. And therefore, the technology that the metadata layer that we are offering to the stakeholders enables the seamless integration of all the registries based on a common data consensus model and the taxonomy that we have kind of evaluated and then cross-checked with various registries in the countries across the world for the last couple of years, I could say. Basis which the kind of integration happens in such a way that the stakeholders, whom we call under the service layer, can have a seamless kind of access to all the data supplied by the registries through this metadata layer. And that's how the integration happens, in a way that you can have a greater access to the data, and then also try to see how it is real time, and then also see how you can utilize the data for the purpose for which you are downloading. So that's how the integration happens.
In what ways does CAD Trust facilitate the implementation of Article 6 cooperative approaches?
So before I answer your question directly, I would like to give you a background in terms of how the World Bank and UNDP have done a lot of work in terms of providing capacity building to the countries. And of course, as you know, the Climate Action Data Trust is an initiative by the World Bank, Government of Singapore, and IETA. And the kind of work that has been carried out so far is to engage with these countries, build the capacity to understand how they can participate actively in the carbon markets, and also build the infrastructure, which is basically the carbon registry. And therefore, the kind of work that World Bank and UNDP are currently implementing, CAD Trust is well positioned to capture these kind of activities that are happening in these registries. So there is a design to automatically connect or integrate the national registries with the Climate Action Data Trust metadata layer. So that is the first aspect of it. The other aspect is basically to see how the national registries, once connected, they could have access to the data that the other counterparts are providing on the data layer. The third and the most important, the critical part of it is the kind of reporting requirements by the UNFCCC for the nationally determined contribution compliance aspect of it. So therefore, the metadata layer offered by the Climate Action Data Trust provides the ability to submit the reports on NDC compliance by the nations which are having the registries connected to us in a unified manner. So the overall objective would be to ensure that the processes are streamlined, and the the metadata layer helps operationalize Article 6 related activities by all these countries across the world.
Dinesh Babu, Executive Director of the Climate Action Data Trust, thank you so much again for joining us.